Hello YouTube audience. Today is May the 2nd, 2021 and it's approaching the end of the repotting season, and I would like to finish all my repotting by the end of May. So today is kind of a repotting marathon for my conifers, and I'm going to have 3 plants. I will need to repot it. 1 Japanese white pine, 1 Texas, and 1 juniper. And this is the first one. This is the Japanese white pine. It's Pinus parviflora glauca brevifoli. So this is the tag. Let's see, so that I have the full name. And so this is a simple repot. I'm going to put it into a training pot. This pot, it's going to have a lot of drainage, and it's going to facilitate rapid root growth and top growth. So I'm not going to prune off too much root, I think. And so it should be relatively simple. And the goal is to have an initial look on the root base and have an initial analysis, maybe do a little bit of wiring and set the initial shape of the tree. Okay, so I'm going to do a formal 360 turn of the tree. This is the first look at my blue Japanese white pine from nursery without a single work on it. So this is raw nursery stock. So I repotted this tree and did some wiring. I would say I did too much to the tree this time because it is such a beautiful tree. I have the tendency to overwork the tree, and hopefully I hope this tree would survive. But let's just look at what I have done. So what you're looking at probably is the front of the tree, and so the trunk line go this way, go to the left of the video, and then the apex go to the right in the end. So all these from here on to the very right, very left side of the video, it's all sacrificial. So I was trying to wire the sacrificial branch away from the main structure of the tree, which is basically from, if we look at the whole trunk line, basically only a half of the bottom half of all the branches are considered in the final design of the tree. So to the left of the trunk line, it's all sacrificial. So in the end, I'm going to cut all these half of the tree off. But currently, I'm saving all these to thicken the trunk line. But at the same time, I don't want the sacrificial or the top half of the tree to compete for too much energy, which may have the risk of killing the lower branches if the top of the tree take too much energy. So I wire it down a little bit. In the process, I broke it. I broke the branch here. So let's see if the sacrificial branch survive or not. If it doesn't survive, I will just cut it off. That's completely fine. I also have a tiny breakage here, which I hope the tree can heal. That's the hope. And then I just put in some wires here and there to position the trunk line a little bit. Other than that, I have not done much to the plant. Of course, the repotting is very severe work. It's always an open heart surgery to a plant to repot, and I have tried my best to be conservative, only cut off the roots that are outside of the pot, extend outside of the pot, and I believe also there is a high root. I think after I tease out the old root, there was a high root here, so I cut that off. Other than that, the root plane is pretty flat. It's a very nice, almost like a bonsai nursery tree, has relatively flat root plane. It is obviously a grafted tree. Here is the union. This is the white pine pot. The rootstock is probably a Japanese black pine, which has very strong root system, which is also the standard protocol of propagating Japanese white pine. People normally put it on a black pine rootstock because it simply makes the tree stronger. If it's on its own rootstock, the tree would be weaker and also sometimes more yellowish on its own rootstock. But in a black pine, hopefully it's going to be weaker. I definitely overworked the tree, and I hope, because it's spring, I hope it still survives. But there are some risks. I've definitely overworked the tree. But if it survives, it's going to develop into a very nice traditional informal upright tree. So the video really doesn't do the tree justice. In 3 dimensions, it looks much better. And let me try to turn it a little bit so that maybe you would have a better view of the tree, like this. It's still a mess, but I hope that this tree will develop nicely in the future. Let me try to bring it closer. Maybe it's going to look a little bit better when it's closer. Okay, so this is the initial work of this Japanese white pine, and I'm going to go to the next one. This is a little bit overworked, but I hope this tree survives. It's a very young tree. I really hope this tree survives. It looks so nice. At least to my eye, the camera really doesn't capture the three-dimension nature of the tree very well, but you basically are looking at a tree that looks like this without a sacrificial in the future, and it's very, very nice looking. Okay, I'm going to go to the next tree now. This is the first 360-degree view of this tree, this Japanese white pine. After the first work, I repotted it as well as wiring it. I may be overworking this tree, but let's take the number one 360-degree view of this tree. So this is the back of the tree. And now we are back to the front. This is the second tree for the repotting marathon today. It is a yew tree or a Texas. And let's take a look at the tag. It's Duke's, the variety is Duke's Garden. It's Japanese plum yew. It's evergreen, zone 6 to zone 9. So it's relatively small tree. I hope that we can get the whole information. So it is May. It's a perfect time to repot a yew tree. And I think I'm going to do a 360. So this is the official 360 of this nursery stock yew tree. And before any work is done to it. And it looks like this. Okay, now back. So this is the first look of this tree, and we will follow the progress of this tree in the future. Okay, so now we are going to proceed to repot the tree. Before that, I'm going to prune off some of the branches that I consider sacrificial. So I have selected a branch, a tree with very nice movements. So once I prune off the sacrificial branches, you will see the nice movement of the tree. So first, this sacrificial is left to grow to thicken the trunk, so I'm going to keep it. So this sacrificial is the main sacrificial branch, or the original main trunk of the tree. I don't need it right now, so I'm going to cut it off. Well, in the process of cutting this first branch off, I've successfully injured myself because my finger was caught on this junction, and I basically injured my finger. So from now on, I will going to work with the injured finger, so it's probably going to be clumsy. Second sacrificial branch is going to come off. Okay. So you can see the habit of yew tree. It's going to grow tons of branches in the same place. Okay. So now you can see the structure very easily. There is this sacrificial. Let's see. I would need to think about. taper. A taper is what I'm thinking about. So we have this sacrificial to create a thick base, and we have this sacrificial to thicken the trunk. And then we turn this way. It was a branch, now it's a trunk line. Okay. I think I'm still going to keep this two sacrificial for right now, because it's still a very young and small tree, and I would like it to develop a little bit more. So I'm going to keep these, but in the end it's these little branchlets on the base that's going to become be developed into the actual branch. Okay. I'm still bleeding. Let me stop the video right now, and I will come back for the let's see, the time-lapse video of repotting this tree when I stop bleeding. Okay, I've repotted this yew tree into this training pot. It's a little bit big, but this is a pot I have. So I actually, about a year ago, I went to a workshop where they, my local bonsai club told us how to how to design our first bonsai, and I got this pot because the bonsai I was making turned out to be a cascade bonsai. So these pots they provided wasn't suitable, so I bought another pot for that bonsai. But I ended up taking the pot they provided us home, and I think this could be a good training pot for this tree. So I'm potting this tree in this training pot. Obviously, this is a more elegant tree. It's not a very strong and powerful tree, so strictly speaking, it should not be in these angular pots. These angular pots are for more powerful, thick trunk trees, but as a training pot, I think is completely fine. And I'm leaving this sacrificial branch to thicken up the base, and hopefully it's going to make the base thick. And I think I'm going to train this branch as the actual branch that come out of the trunk. So ultimately this sacrificial branch is going to be completely removed, and this is going to be the true branch that I'm going to train in the future. And also I shortened this sacrificial branch here. This was also a very long branch. I shortened it because I want to develop taper. So I want this area to be thicker than this area. So I want this to grow stronger than this sacrificial branch. So that's why I shortened that sacrificial branch. In the future, I may develop these tiny things, these tiny little branches downward as the real ultimate branch that come out from the trunk. And then this is the major trunk line, already has some taper. From here to here, I think this is thick and this is thinner, so already have some good taper. And I'm going to take this as the major trunk line, and this as a branch. So the whole tree is going to flow back to the right side of the pot, so the plant is slightly to the left of the pot, slightly, just slightly. At this point, it doesn't really matter where the plant floats. We can move it around in the future. And I've mounted the plant a little bit because when I take the plant out of the pot, the root is full of yellow noodle-like root, which is the active growing tips of root. So the root is already active and it's growing rapidly, so I don't want to disturb the root base too much, so I didn't take away too much soil. That's why I kept a lot of the old soil, just added bonsai soil to the peripheral to fill this pot. And hopefully when it develops a lot of soil, a lot of roots next year, and I'm going to take this or several years later, because this training pot may take several years to fill. I may take this apart and reduce the root, the thickness of the root base, and gradually develop a flat root base. I didn't tease the root too much because it's already very, very active right now. Okay, so I'm going to do a spin, 360 spin of the plant as a after look. This is the 360 degree look of this yew tree after its first repotting. Note that these long branches, they are sacrificial, so they are grown to thicken the trunk, and it's going to ultimately be cut off the plant. So this is the last conifer I'm going to repot today as my marathon repotting video on conifer trees. So this is my bonsai number one, my first bonsai, which has a name called Adam, and it is Chinese juniper. And so after the first styling and the repotting of the tree, it has been left alone to regrow and recover. So it has developed some percolation problems. So the root is probably filling the pot pretty nicely, and the drainage is quite slow. And also you can see the surface of the root are all exposed and probably dried out, because the original nursery soil I left in the pot, the birds loves to come in and peck the soil. That's why all the surface soil are gone. They are removed by birds, and I need to change these original soil to probably completely bonsai soil, so that the tree has better drainage, and also hopefully the birds would leave the plant alone. So this plant was developed about probably more than a year ago. At the time, I was more or less just finding the traditional most movement line. So this is more or less a traditional S-shaped plant, and my ideas on bonsai has developed a lot over the last year, and I would like to try something else. I may, depends on the result of the repotting, I may try to develop a multi-trunk tree. So the S-shaped, a single trunk formal upright tree is more or less the standard of bonsai. When people think about a bonsai, they first think about the single trunk informal upright tree, and that's also what I made my first bonsai based on. But now I've developed more ideas, more of my own ideas, or not my own, but I've seen more in bonsai. I think this tree may have been better off to be it could be a multiple trunk tree. So I'm going to change the potting angle of this tree a little bit, and with the idea of a potential multi-trunk tree in the future in mind, with this idea in mind, and see, and after repotting, I will just leave it alone, let it grow, not touch it, and maybe in the fall I will come back and wire it and restyle it, and see whether I can make it into a less commonplace tree, hopefully give it more characteristics. So this is the front. So I'm going to do a quick 360, which you have been seeing. So this is the look, 360 looks of the my first bonsai, Adam, the Chinese juniper. The variety name is Oak Gold, and I'm going to repot this tree into the same pot, just changing the nursery soil into proper bonsai soil, and hope to improve the drainage and also slightly change the planting angle. So this is the before look. Okay, I finished repotting this Chinese juniper, Old Gold, and so let's take a look. It's a relatively easy repotting. I simply get rid of most of the old soil and add some bonsai soil to it, and change the planting angle. If you remember, this used to be the major trunk line which form the S shape of the tree, and this used to be the a side branch. And I have this new idea about this tree because my idea about bonsai has evolved during the short amount of time I've practiced the art, and I feel that the traditional S shape, the informal upright style, is a little bit overly used. Everybody do a informal upright tree from the highest level to the most beginner level tree. Everybody do a informal upright, so it's a little bit overused, and I would like to make something a little bit different. So with the change of the planting angle, I would ultimately, after this plant established in this pot, I would ultimately want to take this side branch as the one of the major trunk line, and take this as one trunk, and this as one trunk. So ultimately I would like to make this into a triple trunk bonsai, which is different from the traditional single trunk informal upright style. Hopefully it makes it a little bit more interesting. Of course, you have triple trunk, and it would be a little bit more difficult than single trunk, but I think I can handle it at this stage. So I'm looking forward to that. The styling is probably be later this year, after this tree has re-established the root. And I'm simply going to let it grow for a month. For those roots that has been cut off after a month, it's probably healed, and then I will fertilize this tree, and then wait for several months, probably hopefully in the fall, which is probably the ideal time to wire a juniper, because the vascular growth, the trunk thickness improve a lot in the fall, and you want added wood to set a branch structure, so in the fall would be pretty nice. Potentially in September, I'm going to wire this tree into a triple trunk structure. That should be quite interesting compared to the original design as a single trunk S-shape tree. That's a little bit too standard. So this is actually my profile picture tree. So after I restyle it, I probably take a new profile picture on this tree. And okay, so that's that for this tree. I'm going to do a 360 spin after this. This is the 360 view of this Chinese juniper bonsai after the second repotting. And I changed the planting angle with the idea that ultimately this may change from an informal upright single trunk tree to a triple trunk tree, and the wiring and styling would happen this fall. And this is the after view of the repotting. Okay, I've finished the marathon repotting of this 3 conifer evergreen, and from the left to the right, they are Chinese juniper, Japanese white pine, and a yew tree. And so I've put them into their training pot and decide on the planting angle. And for the Japanese white pine, I have slightly wired it into shape. Now I'm going to take them outside and thoroughly water them. But before that, let's just take a look on all these little trees, and hopefully they survive the repotting season. For me personally, I'm coming to the end of my repotting season. I probably have one more tree to repot, and I'm done with the repotting season after this. You can see I have leave these long branches as sacrificial. Long branches. The sacrificial branch means I'm simply leaving them to thicken the trunk, and ultimately they are going to be cut off. Okay, I'm going to take them outside and water them thoroughly. I'm catching the last bit of daylight to water these 3 conifers I've repotted today. I find the watering pot of the repotted plant very satisfying, so I got to capture it. Because these are conifer, I'm watering them with some mycorrhiza concentrate added to the water. I don't know if it would work or not, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.